Oh, hi everyone, it's Linda here from Just for Tummies, and I'm all at sixes and sevens this afternoon. I do apologise, but welcome to today's video, From Fear to Freedom, Empowering Our Mental Wellness, with clinical psychologist Rosalyn Palmer. Now, Rosalyn is very popular. Every time we send a newsletter out with one of Rosa's videos embedded in the newsletter, it's always one of our most popular newsletters, and we get lots of really good feedback regarding Rosa's very wise words. So I've got a virus, so if I start coughing and sneezing, please do excuse me. But I'm going to invite Ros into the live now. Where are you, Ros? I can't find you. Hang on, where's my mouse? Oh. There we go. Hi, Ros.
Hello, Linda. I hope you're feeling better.
I'm okay. You're looking very well.
Thank you.
Put a bit of lippy on.
That's what 8 days in Greece does for you.
Of course. You went to, was it Corfu?
Kefalonia. I went to Kefalonia.
Is that where they filmed
Captain Corelli's Mandolin?
Mandolin, yes. Yeah, I've never been to Kefalonia. I've been to Crete a few times.
Yeah, I went to Crete last year, so we thought we'd try somewhere different. I have to say, I highly recommend it. Highly. Not if you want, not if you want Club 1830, but the whole point is I don't want Club 1830. So it was great.
And Greece was beautiful.
Yeah,
Greece is beautiful.
I love Greece and Kefalonia. There was quite a few people in the hotel who said, because I went to Greece first in about 1982, 83, and clearly it's changed quite a bit since then. And they said it's like old Greece. It's like that, you can kind of imagine yourself on a donkey up a mountain and just finding a little taverna and sitting watching the world go by. So Kefalonia is one of those little, still, I think, quite hidden gems. So yeah, maybe not.
Was it quite an impulsive trip then to Kefalonia?
No. I booked it ages ago with my friend Jane. We're like traveling companions, and we normally do like super last minute 5 days before we go stuff. But I actually booked this one well in advance because I'd read all the reviews on TripAdvisor, and it's a really small hotel. There's only 23 rooms, and I think we were the only people who hadn't been back there like 5, 6, 7 times. So it was really just a little 3-star hotel. The reception was at the bar. It was like, where's reception? And they were like, oh, go to the bar. And so it was just lovely, really relaxing, and just what I needed.
Was it bed and breakfast then?
Yeah, bed and breakfast. So we'd have a little stroll down the hill to the local, just by the beach every night, which was about 10 minutes down the hill, about 15 up, depending on if you'd had an ouzo or not. And
or a raki. I quite like raki.
Yeah, and it was lovely because it was just very Greek. We ate Greek food. What I didn't realise was we were there for Greek Easter. Oh. So when I got there, and they were like, oh, buses won't be running and things might not be open because it's Easter. We were like, what? But of course, it's a Greek Orthodox church and they celebrate Easter at a different time.
It's the same with, my daughter-in-law's Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And they celebrate Christmas and Easter at different times.
Yeah. So the Orthodox calendar, isn't it? Mind you, it's not as interesting as Ethiopia, Linda, because you remember I ended up in hospital in Ethiopia.
And you were working for the leprosy mission.
Yeah, with Anne Widdecombe at my side in the hospital, and I had mild concussion. And I was like looking, and there was this calendar on the wall, and this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. So that would have been, let's say 2017. And the calendar said something like 2009. And I was going, that calendar's really out of date. And they were going, no, that's the year. Ethiopia don't even have the same year as everybody else.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like about 10 or 12 years behind us because they reckon that we've got the calendar wrong and that
we've got it wrong.
yeah, everybody else has got it wrong. But I mean, there's a lot of debate, because if you think about it, it's why we have a leap year every 4 years to kind of adjust it.
Yes.
So, you know, there is debate as to, you know, kind of who's got it right, if you like.
Well, let's continue. So I'm not firing on all 4 cylinders at the moment. And I can feel my eyes starting to run now. So this virus, it's just kind of affected my head,
Oh,
my sinuses, even my eyeballs ache.
Oh no, that's not good, is it? That's not good. That's not good. And you haven't
Freddie Mercury, the show must go on. So, can you just tell people, oh yeah, people who are watching and listening, just to let you know that this video will remain on the Just for Tummies Facebook page and on LinkedIn. And we will also be, as we always do, sending it out in a newsletter sometime next week. So I did a little Google, Ros, on the word fear, on what it represents. And according to the Oxford Dictionary, it's an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain, or harm. But just before we dive into From Fear to Freedom, can you tell people briefly a little bit about you?
Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, rapid transformational therapist, which combines clinical hypnotherapy, psychotherapy, NLP, and CBT, and an NLP-based coach. So what does all of that and all of those letters mean? It means that I work with people to understand what are the blocks, where are those unwanted thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that maybe you get caught in a repetitive pattern and you know you don't want them, you know better, and you want to get rid of them, or those feelings of dread or emptiness or despair. That I had somebody recently call it the 5%, that like they kind of got 95% of the way in their life through all the things that, you know, they've read what to do and doing and living well, but they just can't shift. Or with some people it could be really overwhelming, you know, because it's a really overwhelming or repetitive behavior or unwanted thoughts. So with all of those skills, plus me, because, you know, skills are all well and good. It's like being trained as a chef, but how do you become a great chef? With all of those skills, I can work with people to really find the root cause of the thing that they don't want anymore and reinstall something better, effectively rewire their brain, if you like. Why am I particularly good at it? Because I have had a very often traumatic past. I've had to walk not an easy path, which often looked great. I looked like I had it all going on. You know, I have a very, very successful career behind me in PR and marketing. I was a self-made millionairess at 40. I come from humble background beginnings in Nottingham as a grocer's daughter, living above the shop and going to a comprehensive school. But through sheer intelligence, hard work, perseverance, and dogged determination, I ended up with rather a stellar career in PR and marketing in London in the 80s and the 90s, culminating in my own company. But behind the mask and behind the really glossy facade, I was often incredibly unhappy. I had a lot of sticking plasters to get me through that very pressurized, difficult world that also wasn't really in alignment with who I genuinely, truly am. And the good sticking plasters were things like colonic irrigation at the Hale Clinic and Ayurvedic medicine and being vegetarian and mindset and exercise and seeing really good and often very expensive therapists. And the not so good stuff was being bulimic and taking sleeping tablets and drinking far too much. And so it was this constant battle between, it was always about getting through. It was being on that archetypal hamster wheel that I never felt I could get off. And then after I thought I'd got off it, kind of everything imploded. Cancer came. I had a lot of loss. I had financial loss, divorce. So, you know, all the not great things that can happen in life. And I've had to navigate all of that, plus the menopause, and reinventing myself several times over. So I bring all of that to bear with those great skill sets through the therapy. And it really means that I do work with people, you know, and have great success, and often with people who can't even really put their finger on what's wrong with them, if you like. Does that explain me well, do you think, Linda?
That's great, thank you, Rose. I know, as a, you know, when I'm sort of trying to describe you to people, I say that, you know, you're like a cat that's lived, you know, that's got 9 lives, and you've already lived several of them, because you just seem to bounce back, you know, whatever is thrown at, or whatever has been thrown at you, Ros, you know, you just get on with it, don't you?
I do, and it's not always easy, Linda. But the great thing is, it means I've got a lot of tools in my toolbox that I can then share with other people.
Of course, yes, yeah. You know, like you say, you've walked the walk, you've got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
So we've got some really meaty questions here that I want to dive into now. So the first one is, what are the primary drivers behind the creation of fear and anxiety in individuals, especially in the context of today's world?
Okay, so I'm going to start with a definition of fear as well, not the Oxford Dictionary definition, but one I saw on a kind of a meme, which is fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. And then we'll end with a much better one, okay?
Yes.
And it's really about, what do I think is going on? What am I fearing? I think it was Mark Twain who said, you know, I've had a great many catastrophes in my life, and some of them actually happened, you know. So there's that kind of worry, that dread. And of course, where does that come from? Well, societal pressures. It can come from the family you grew up with. You could have a very fearful parent, and you kind of live what you learn, and you learn what you live. You could actually be living somewhere very fearful. I've dealt with people who grew up in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, and you know, one of them, her bedroom window was blown out by a bomb. Now, not surprisingly, she didn't sleep very well after that. You know, so you could actually be in a society that is either very unstable and, you know, not safe, or just the pressures within that society. And that can really be that maybe you don't feel safe because you're wanting to be a round peg and you're in a square hole, you know, and that can be to do with your sexuality, with your ambitions, you know, like women who are ambitious in a country where women aren't allowed to, you know, be ambitious. So we'll just call them all societal pressures, okay? And then economic instability. So even if there's not a war going on, if there's like lots of economic instability. Now, we live in a world of economic instability at the moment. And since, you know, lockdown, it's been uncertain. There feels like these hidden threats that are either some virus or something from a foreign power, or like there's all these movies just for good, you know, about cyber attacks and viral attacks.
The world just doesn't feel as safe as it was.
No, not when I was a kid. And also, the reason a lot of why we felt more safe was because we didn't even know it was all going on. So a lot of that is to do with, you know, the internet and being literally over informed. So there's health concerns, and there's just constant negative news. Now, I come from a PR background, as you know, particularly in the 80s. I was all around media. I was all over media. And then the way that the tabloids described themselves was they used to say, if it bleeds, it reads. In other words, if we make the story more dramatic, more awful, more terrible, we will sell more papers. Now, I literally, you'd have to strap me to a chair and slightly anesthetize me to make me watch like EastEnders, because, or any of the soaps, because they're literally all about all the terrible things that can happen, because it's more dramatic.
They're always shouting.
They're always shouting. They're just always. I met the guy who was a screenwriter for EastEnders years ago, and he earned £1 million a year. A year, because they get like rights, or they used to sell all the, you know, the episodes all over the world. And I said to him, wow, that's a lot of money for people just shouting at each other all the time. How do I do that? I'm sorry, I could manage it. So that, all that external and the container that you're living in, all of that pressure and all of that uncertainty is a stimuli that triggers an anxiety response. And so that will then lead to stress, and that will lead to fear.
I mean, growing up, Ros, I don't know about you, but growing up, we didn't have a television until I was about 10 years of age. Never listened to the radio. I can't ever recall my parents ever buying a newspaper. I think maybe the way we got our news was from when my dad went to the pub.
Yeah, well, we had a telly, but then there wasn't much on it, was there? You know, there was no daytime TV, and also you all used to sit down together and watch the same thing. You know, so it would, you know, be Dad's Army or, you know, something like that. So it was very, very different. Yeah, it was very different.
And now we're just, you know, we're just being, well, I don't know. I just feel as though we're being drowned in information.
Well, we are. We're totally drowned in information. We are bombarded. Now it's available 24/7 and from many, 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 many outlets. And of course, you know, people call it doom scrolling, you know, and you get caught up with it. You know, you see them, you know, I've just been in London, you see them on the underground and everybody's going like this. Everybody's like, do. You know, they're not even engaging in the world around them, you know, and their heads are making, because your subconscious, your imagination doesn't really know the difference between what is perceived and what is real. So when you're living in that doom scrolly world, as far as your body is concerned, it's actually all happening. And so then, and I think this probably is your next question, so I'll let you ask your next question.
Yes. Can you elaborate on the detrimental effects that prolonged fear and anxiety can have on both physical and mental health?
So all that, you know, fear and your imagination, your mind kind of effectively feeling it's real, so that you're living in a war zone, everything's terrible, everybody's falling out, you're going to get a virus next week, and, you know, doom, gloom, it triggers a stress response in you. So our primitive, you know, caveman wiring of fight, flight and freeze, we don't know the difference between a perceived danger, i.e., you know, it's not really happening or it's happening somewhere else, but I'm reading about it, and an actual danger, you know. So, you know, when Ugg, our great ancestor, was out and about and suddenly he saw a saber-toothed tiger, he needed to have a response. And, you know, and that response was flight, fright or freeze, you know, run away, fight it or hide. And those responses are triggered by a hormonal change in the body, a chemical change in the body, sorry. I'm correct myself there, a chemical change in the body, which is flooding the body with cortisol. And cortisol allows you to totally focus on one of those responses. Cortisol isn't nuanced. Cortisol doesn't go, oh, well, that's a nicer saber-toothed tiger than I saw last week, you know, or I wonder if they come in different colors. You know, cortisol is, we're either going to fight it, we're either going to run away, or we're going to hide. And unfortunately now, when we're, you know, out and somebody cuts up in front of us in the car, we have the same response. But the trouble is, with all this stimuli going on, and because our minds aren't really determining that it's not really real, we are literally flooding ourselves with this, no, it is a hormone, this stress hormone, and it depletes the immune system, because it's meant to be a short-term solution. It's like if you've ever had an automatic car and you have the sports button, you know, it's the sports button is how you overtake in the moment, but you're not supposed to drive the car around in sports mode. It would actually ruin the engine. And of course, when you're constantly flooding your body with that cortisol, which people are because of all this external stimulation and stimuli and negativity, it's going to deplete your immune system. And the minute your immune system's depleted, as we know, dis-ease comes in. You're not going to sleep properly, and you're not going to be a happy person inside here.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, then. So could you walk us through the blueprint checklist of actionable actions that individuals can take daily to transform fear into self-empowerment?
Now, there's a million books on this. So, you know, you have to choose what works for you. But the kind of go-to things are mindfulness. So actually really just bringing yourself into the moment, you know, the now. All there is really is now and what's going to happen. Okay. And really what's going to happen is just now moving into it. So really it's all about bringing yourself, and you can do that in lots of ways. You can literally pick your pen up and just focus on it for 5 minutes. It's really about grounding yourself back in to, you know, your reality. And I'm very into grounding. I literally walk across my lawn barefoot. You know, grounding, there is a lot of scientific evidence that actually grounding to the earth is a really good thing. Journaling, kind of getting those jumbly emotional thoughts out onto paper, not in any particular order, but just kind of getting them out. That's also, you know, really, really important. And as you know, my signature thing is my 5 F's. And so that's really all about that. So it's friends and family, because we are connected beings. So when you are connected, it's so much better. You know, a problem shared is a problem halved, or just being around people just makes you feel better. It's faith. So that could be faith. It could be a religious faith. So your meditation might be prayer, or your meditation might be a walk in the countryside, but it's faith in something beyond you. It's fitness. So that's mind and body. So that's really, you know, be careful what you put in both. Yeah. Feed this well and feed this well. Actually, there's a pheasant just outside my door. Talk about feeling good. A little pheasant just ran right outside my door because I live in the countryside. And then the other one is finance. So that's about your career, if you like, but that's really about what gives you purpose. You might not, you know, what gives you purpose might be being a stay-at-home mom, or, you know, making macrame hats. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make lots of money. It's really about what gives you purpose. And then the last one is fun, you know, so just elevating and remembering to have that fun that we did as kids.
You just made me think, really. I mean, as you know, I run Just for Tummies, and I can just get so bogged down in it. And it's difficult not to, Ros, you know, because I see it. And I know Kevin, you know, my husband, and Colin, our son, I know they think just the same. It's a big responsibility, running Just for Tummies, especially when people are actually putting your products into their mouths. And do I feel fear? I did initially when we first launched. It was excitement, but it was, you know, the fear came into it as well. Do I still feel fear? Not really, but sometimes it just creeps into my mind. You know, the responsibility of it all. I suppose I can't say it's fear. It's just responsibility.
Yeah, well, I think that you can feel like that because that's the pressure, isn't it? That's the pressure. That's the burden. That's the anxiety of, you know, and what if? So, you know, what if it failed? What if I can't provide for my family? What if I let my customers down? You know, what if
I'm ill and I can't run?
What if I'm ill? Or what if I'm, you know, disabled? You know, all the rest of it. And so actually a very good exercise is to change the what ifs to what is. So when you start to feel those what ifs, you know, what if I, you know, can't do this? What if our new product fails? You know, whatever the what if, just stop yourself and write down what is the reality of this situation? What is the reality? Well, my previous experience is we research it, we work so hard, it's probably not going to fail. What is the reality? If it did fail, we've still got 8 other good products and we'd handle it. What is the reality? We're at that point where we're going to launch now, so we're going to find out. Do you know what I mean? So you're just bringing it down.
Yes, yeah, that's very good advice. Thank you. Right, so on to, how do values and priorities play a role in combating anxiety and fostering mental wellness?
Well, values, and you know, I'm really about values, and I think it's one of the reasons that you and I, you know, really hit it off so early when we first met, whenever it was, you know, because we both run value-led businesses and value-led lives, don't we? And in fact, the reason my second marriage couldn't sustain was because it was a values mismatch, really, more than anything. So they're the guiding principles, values, that inform our decisions and then our actions. And when actions or what we're doing is aligned to kind of who we are at our core and what we hold to be dear, and what our North Star is, if you like, or our guiding principles. When we're in alignment, that's what people call flow. That flow, abundance. It's that alignment, really. That's what it's about. It's about when it's all, and you have times like that, don't you? When it just all seems tickety-boo and everything seems lovely, and it leads to great level of satisfaction and psychological well-being. But unfortunately, there's often a mismatch. And a lot of that is to do with what I like to call rules, which are bullshit rules. And
I remember that, yes.
You remember rules?
I remember rules, yes.
And the trouble is, we grow up with rules that we mistake for our values, or we hold to be our values. But those rules are, again, due to that society and that pressure cooker that we're growing up in. So if you grew up in a, we're of a generation where, some parents' aspirations for their daughters might have been to marry well, to marry well. That was the rule. Be a nice girl, marry well, don't be too ambitious. I actually went for a job interview in the early 80s. In fact, I'm going to call them out. I don't care. They, Marks and Spencer's, actually, for retail management. And I wanted to do commercial management. And when I went for the interview at their head office on Baker Street, the guy said to me, we're happy to offer you a job, but it'll be staff management. I was like, I don't want to do staff management. I want to do commercial management. That seemed to be a lot more exciting. And he said, oh, a pretty girl like you're probably going to marry a lawyer or a doctor. And he genuinely, 100%. And he said, and we'll have wasted all that money on your training. And I decided not to work for them.
Goodness, I don't think it gets away with saying that nowadays.
The rules change, but they're to do with the time and place that you grew up, the family, the society. And the trouble is, people keep living by them when they're no longer in that family, no longer in that society, no longer in that time. And they wonder why they're unhappy, or they're holding themselves back. And it's because that's not actually your value. That was your grandparents' value. And I'm not saying throw all of them out. Some of them are very, very good values, okay? But you have to decide, are these values right for you? Are they right for you now? And when you do question your values, review them, almost like you'd review, anything in your life, and then live by them. When I ran my PR company, along with a contract of employment, they had to sign a values contract. We had a values contract about the values that our company was based on. And so when things went wrong, the conversation was actually relatively easy for me as the boss, which was, is that really in alignment with our values? And they'd go, no, it isn't. And I go, well, we need to realign, don't we? So living in alignment with your values just makes life flow. And so all of that cortisol and anxiety is going to come down, and you're going to feel a lot happier.
So do you recommend that people sit down and really think about what their values are and write them down then?
I do. I genuinely do. I do. Yeah. And review them regularly.
And how many values on average do people have?
Well, that's a very good question. And I think, I don't really know. When I ran my company, we probably had like about 10, because it seemed like a good number. Some people only have one, their value might be, do no harm. That's a very good value. Do no harm. If every day you ask yourself, if I do this, is it going to hurt somebody or hurt somebody else? That's a really great value to live by.
So what were one of your company values then, Ros?
That we would, effectively, that we would give forgiveness rather than permission. So one of the company values was, there would be times that people wouldn't always, because PR and media is such a fast moving industry, that you often on the spot have to make a decision, and you might not make exactly with hindsight the best decision, but you don't want somebody who's going to act like, a rabbit frozen in the headlight. You've got to have somebody, it'd be like Alien. Think of Sigourney Weaver. She's never faced the alien before, but if she just froze down the corridor, they'd all die. So one of the values was really about as long as you'd made the best decision at the time with all the resources available, that you would be forgiven for it effectively. So we wouldn't fire somebody for making the wrong decision, but might fire somebody for making no decision at all.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. So we've talked about boundaries before, haven't we? So what about boundary settings?
Well, again, it's very much to do with your values, and it's very much to do with your musts and shoulds. And again, they're all linked to your values. And again, we grow up with musts and shoulds. And again, these are the things you need to look at. So, say you grow up in a very, very Orthodox Jewish family and community. I lived in Golders Green for 4.5 years, so I lived amongst a very traditional Jewish community. One of the values is going to be you must not eat pork. Maybe if you're very Orthodox Jewish, must not use any machinery on a Friday. They don't even use any machinery or travel anywhere. That's a must. Okay, it's like the 10 Commandments. You must not commit adultery. So if you probably have shoulds, and the shoulds might be like, you should, I don't know, you should clean your bedroom every day. You should, go to work and provide for your family. I don't know. The musts are going to hold you, okay? And the shoulds are going to be a lot more flexible. And the trouble is where they don't work anymore. So you might have grown up in a society, and let's say again, I'm using the example of a Jewish person simply because it's a good illustration. Say you changed, say you renounced Judaism and decided to be a Christian, you're not going to have a must not eat pork and must not travel on a Friday rule anymore, are you? It's going to go to maybe a should, because maybe going to your family, your mum's really upset about it and it would really be nice if you didn't do it. But you can see where a values mismatch.
That's not a must, is it? That's a should.
Exactly. And the trouble is when your shoulds hit against the must. So you marry somebody, okay, and your value is I must not commit adultery. Their value is I should not commit adultery. I think we can automatically see where there would be a little bit of a problem there. And so your boundaries are about your musts in a way. They're about your, so my boundaries are things like I must get 8 hours sleep a night. My boundaries are things like I must have a couple of days a week when I just, do my own thing and relax and spend time in nature. They are non-negotiable in my diary. Absolutely not. So your boundaries are what you set effectively as your ring fence yourself with what those values are.
So again, I'm just trying to make it easy for people to understand and to apply about, boundaries. So again, they could make 2 lists of musts and shoulds. Which
and also boundaries will go into different areas. So you'll have a physical boundary, so my body is my body. Okay, so somebody doesn't get to violate it unless I agree or choose. Okay, you don't get to have this or do things to it. Okay. So you have a physical boundary, you have maybe a mental boundary, I don't want that putting into my head, that's why I don't listen to most of the mainstream news and, very negative. Exactly. That's also, ring fenced, I'm not saying I only listen to la, everything's perfectly sunny and, whatever, but, I'm very careful about what I put in there. I'm careful about what I put in here, also food, etc. They're all my boundaries. And then boundaries would be things like within the workplace, and within a relationship, it's not acceptable for you to speak to me in that manner. I am not, that violates my boundary, because, you calling me a stupid idiot or I don't know, something a lot worse, is not, acceptable. But
what gives you the right to call me that and to treat me that way?
So you find that really successful people, it's because they know where their boundaries are. They know, I mean, if you went up to, I'm sure, Richard Branson and called him a string of expletives, I mean, he would be like, that's really not acceptable. I don't think he'd make a big deal of it, but because he knows his boundary's just been broken, and so he's not going to spend any more time with you.
No, but he would certainly call you out on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the acronym FOMO, and in what context what does it mean, FOMO?
Yes, so I mentioned FOMO to you because I've been reading a really, really interesting book called The Anxious Generation, which is about Generation Z. So they're the kind of, teens of today, teens, early 20s. And already studies are showing, and medical evidence is showing, they are the most anxious generation there has ever been, ever.
It's not hard to see why, though, is it?
Well, so this book, and okay, it's a hypothesis that this book poses. I'm not saying this is, cast in stone, but I think the book poses a very good hypothesis and does a lot of backing up for it. So I'll save you and everybody having to read it. Although the guy's been interviewed a lot on podcasts, so it's really good to maybe look out for it. And he really defends his hypothesis. His basic hypothesis is that they are the first generation to grow up with smartphones. So the generation before them, Generation X, the millennials, they had phones, but they tended to be flip phones. Okay, so they weren't, and to send a message was like really difficult, when you have to do every letter. So they used them as a form of communication, but they didn't really use them as anything else. They didn't play games on them. Maybe they had Super Mario on it or something, but they didn't. It didn't open the whole world of the World Wide Web and the intranet and absolutely everything to them, and social media, more importantly. And so all of the things like TikTok and everything have all grown up with that generation, with the iPhone. And so they're vicariously living in that world. And that world is also designed by programmers who know about dopamine hits. And dopamine hits are what make people addicts. They're what make people go to the casino and keep putting money in the slot machine. And they're the things that keep you online gambling and all the rest of it. And pornography, because you keep coming back and you get that hit. And you're in a game and you get to kill everybody all the time, and then you go up a level, so you get rewarded for it. And that's why there are all these short videos, because it's like get a hit, which brings your attention span down terribly. So they're it's very difficult to kind of pay attention, and B, it creates a completely false reality about how you interact with really other human beings. And so this generation is finding it very difficult to actually have real relationships. Absolutely, to the point where
real conversations as well.
Conversations, real relationships, and connection, and being tribal people and being part of it, and also learning through the ups and downs of life, the vagaries of life. I had a boyfriend at 15 and he ditched me for another girl, and I thought my world was over, and I just listened to David Cassidy and cried for 3 weeks solid. It wasn't fun, but I survived it. I came through it, and resilience is like a muscle. It's built through coming through that. They're not actually having these experiences because they go back for the dopamine hit of this false world that they live in. And it's also the edited me, social media. Here's me on Instagram, look at me, I'm having the best time ever. And so
is this where FOMO comes in?
This is exactly where FOMO comes in.
Fear of missing out, isn't it?
Because the studies are showing that the reasons why they won't give that generation are actually saying they know their phones or this world they're living in is making them unhappy and not, ill even. But the reason that they don't want to surrender it is the fear of missing out. So everybody else is doing it. I don't want to be the one that doesn't do it. So what's happening is there's movements of parents who've maybe got younger children, say the ones in between, kind of 9 and 13, where the pressure to have an iPhone comes, and the schools don't want them in the schools either. Okay, so there's a lot of movement now. I think it's happening particularly in America, where if the parents all get together and say, none of you are having a phone, none of you, but you can all have a flip phone, because we want you to be able to feel that you can be in touch with us in an emergency. And we're not saying you can't be in touch, but they're not going to sit there going, oh, it's really boring.
I think for some parents as well, Ros, their children having a phone, it's a way of tracking them. It's a way of knowing where
Well,
they
exactly, and that's been the argument.
are.
That's been the argument from the parents for like, well, they've got to have the phone because we've got to track them. You know, but the flip phone, okay, maybe it doesn't take care quite in the same way, but it, you know, it gives them that maybe level of reassurance that they can get hold of them. But this is the other reason. So the other reason in this book, The Anxious Generation, why that generation are got so much anxiety, is they're overprotected, they're overtracked, they're overprotected. So they don't get to go and take risks. They don't get to go and have the freedoms. You know, when I was a kid, my mum would go off on your bike, there's your lunch, be home at tea time.
Yes.
You know, literally. And this would be in the morning. And I'd go
during the school holidays and at weekends, my sister and I, we would just go off for hours. We'd go playing in the woods, on the old allotments. We would be gone for hours, literally.
And now there'll be people watching, and I get it. I totally get it. I'm a parent myself going, well, that's very silly. We live in a dangerous world and, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm not advocating that, but I am saying the pendulum has definitely, and there is a lot of studies now, swung too far the other way. And actually taking some risks is part of growing up and becoming a healthy, well-balanced, happy human being, that you've actually fallen out of a couple of trees and, okay, not killed yourself, but, you know, skinned your knee, and that you've had a little bit of adventure and a bit of freedom. There's ways of allowing children to do that, but still, you know, keep them within a safety net. And I'm sure your family are doing that with your granddaughter.
Yes.
And I know, I'm not saying it's easy. It's really not easy, but over protecting and mollycoddling and then allowing them to live vicariously a life through social media is really damaging.
It's not good. It's not good.
And that's the FOMO. So the FOMO is, I'm really scared that I'm going to miss out.
So what are some practical steps that individuals can take to cultivate a growth mindset and reframe any negative thoughts?
Okay, so there's two very strong practices that come up a lot in mindfulness and, you know, all the gurus. One is envisaging your perfect day. And I'm not sure how much time we've got, but I've actually written a script for a guided meditation for that. So if we don't have time to do it, I could do it for you, and then you could offer it through your newsletter as a little recording.
Can you do that, Ros? And
yeah.
Then we'll embed it in the newsletter.
Yes. So envisaging your perfect day is really, really great. It's a really great way of rewiring your brain in a way to kind of think, what would I love? You know, what would be perfect for me? And everybody's perfect day is different, you know, but most people, because I get a lot of my clients to try it, and I have to say I do see quite a lot of similarity. So it's kind of get up, you know, all be lovely, have a lovely healthy breakfast, maybe sit on a sunny patio, not necessarily easy in England or anywhere, you know, like that we get, but just some sort of easy, nice start to the day, maybe a meditation, maybe a yoga class, you know, maybe some journaling or writing, something that you love, and then maybe doing a bit of work, also work you love, work that gives you purpose. There's always lots of connection. Nearly every time I get my clients to do this, they end with a lovely dinner with friends or family. And, you know, so it's really all those things that bring you joy, that bring you connection, that bring you healthfulness, envisaging your perfect day. And if you keep looking at it, you know, you will move towards it. I mean, this is what manifestation is all about, you know, all the people promising if you manifest it, it will happen, you know, field of dreams, if you build it, they will come. But the brain does latch onto it, and it will, you know, I'm not a manifestation guru, so I'm not going to say do this and it will definitely happen, but I can tell you when you do it, you will definitely move in that direction, and those things will become more and more important to you, and they'll become more and more part of your life, and that will give you some really, you know, great, you will grow and you'll be happier. And the other one is gratitude, Linda, you know, and again, you can buy lovely gratitude journals, and, you know, I could catch myself having a not great day. I've had a few issues, a few upturns recently, which I won't go into, but, you know, nobody lives a hassle-free life. And there were times, you know, I'd be stood at the kitchen sink and you're starting to have those thoughts, and instead I'd go, look at this beautiful kitchen, look at my lovely paddock and my garden and my 10 pet sheep, and and look at my lovely cat, and just
Look at your lovely landing as well. That I'm really
yeah, look at this life I'm living. Look at this life and this home and this what I've created, and it just brings you back into
and
that.
the friends that you have. I mean, you over the years, Ros, you've really cultivated strong friendships. They're very important to you, aren't they?
I continue to do so, and new and different people, younger people, different people, people from other. It's definitely my superpower. My superpower is I can go anywhere and kind of make friends. I can literally queue up for the toilet at the theatre and come away with somebody's number because in the time it's taken us to get to the loo.
But I think that's because you're really interested in people.
Yes,
you really do like people.
Yeah,
don't you?
I do.
There are people
also because I've seen behind the veil as well, Linda. So I know, if you cut us, we all bleed. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Okay. Oh, where are we? Here we go. In establishing healthy habits, what specific areas should individuals focus on, and how can they make sustainable changes in their lifestyle? So yes, healthy habits.
So all the things we've talked about, all the 5 F's, friends and family, faith, fitness, finance, and fun. The gratitude, definitely, and having purpose. I mean, I did was it us who did the webinar together, or it could have just been an article I wrote about happiness, and that research has shown that because people say, oh, happiness is such an elusive thing, I never feel I can be happy, but what they found is that our default setting isn't always to be happy, but we don't come out the womb going, oh, every day I'm going to be happy.
I remember talking about it, so I think we have done something on happiness.
I think we did. But what they've definitely found is when you've got purpose, when you've got a sense of purpose in your life, that the work you do, or what you do within your family, the space you hold for your kids or your community, and I hear people say things like, oh my God, compared to you, I've had such a boring life. And I go, stop, just absolutely stop a minute. What is it you do? And you'll find that they hold the whole community together. That, okay, they never left their village and they maybe lived in, strange street all their life. But, they run the soup kitchen, and they know everybody who's, got a problem. And I'm like, my God, what you're contributing to the world is phenomenal. Okay. So that purpose is really, really, really important. So set yourself some SMART goals. When we're doing goal setting, that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. So, set yourself some goals. And again, there's I did a post recently about kind of Japanese philosophies to live by, and I can't remember the name of it because it's got a very Japanesey name, but there is a Japanese principle, and it's all, I think it's Kaizen. I think it is Kaizen, Kaizan, and the art of Kaizen is little and regular improvements. So it's like every day a little and regular improvement. So rather than go, oh my God, I'm so overweight, I've got to lose a stone, next week. If this week you lose a pound, brilliant. Or if this month you lose a pound, brilliant, because you're only needing to lose 14 pounds, so it's very achievable within a year. If it's why that couch to 5K has been so successful, because there's people going, oh, I feel terrible, I've never run, I don't know how to run, I really want to run, and they go, we'll get you from the couch to 5K, but they do it in increments. They do it in a little bit every day with loads of encouragement and lots of feedback and lots, celebrating the win, that today I managed, whatever. And so set yourself some SMART goals, but make them really realistic and achievable. Don't make them so daunting and overwhelming that you're going to literally fail. And then you can be very proactive in whatever area you want to focus on. And it could be your relationship, it could be your body, it could be your mind, it could be your job. Who knows? What's important to you.
Yeah. Fascinating. Just remind me again what the 3 F's are: faith, friends, family, fun.
Finance and fitness.
Finance and fitness, yes. I mean, we don't like talking about money. It's not the done thing, is it, talking about money? But, you know, money is money
Well,
is it.
I don't mind talking about money, actually. I mean, I do a lot of money mindset coaching with my clients because I was a millionairess at 40 and then I wasn't a millionairess at 45. You know, so I've had an interesting relationship with money, shall we say. But I'm all for money. You know, I was head of marketing for the leprosy mission. Without people giving donations to the leprosy mission and any charity, they wouldn't exist. You know, without people paying it forward. So money is energy. Money can be a complete force for good. Where money goes wrong is where people feel that money in itself will make them happy. And it won't, because I've met a lot of really miserable billionaires. But I've met a lot of really happy billionaires, and I've met a lot of really happy people with absolutely nothing. And I've met a lot of unhappy people with nothing. Definitely money and having enough money makes your life a lot easier, and being in poverty can be a terrible struggle. And I've worked amongst those people. I was also a trustee for a prison and an ex-prisoners housing charity, so I know a lot about deprivation and what that looks like. I'm not saying some stupid thing that you don't need any money. You do, but the pursuit of money in and of itself isn't the end that will bring you happiness, because if that was true, there'd be a lot of celebrities and pop stars who were still alive today.
It's what you do with the money that you acquire and you accumulate, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you have a lot of it, that's good, because you can pay it forward. You can pay it forward and do good with it. So I'm all for people having as much money as works for them. But the trouble is, as you know, and you've alluded to it earlier, when you have a really successful business, it can also become a bit of a, I'm not saying a millstone, but you get caught up in the dynamic of it, don't you? And you have,
and just the minutiae of running it. Yes. It can be all consuming sometimes.
Yeah. And I wish I'd stepped back earlier in my PR business. I wish I'd let go of the reins more and let somebody else come in, so that I'd actually had a much nicer time.
I just have to keep remembering, with the 5 Fs, the fun. How important it is to have fun. And I mean, we've had Jessie for 4 nights, my granddaughter, and we've had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs and a lot of giggles, and it's been absolutely wonderful. It's been very tiring. We took her back this morning, but it's been wonderful having her. And did I tell you that we're having there's another one due in October?
You told me that they were planning, but no, congratulations. I didn't know it actually happened, so congratulations.
It happened, yes, the 24th of October.
Oh, lovely, 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 lovely. An autumn baby. How lovely.
We're all absolutely,
Look, fun is it's really interesting, and it goes back to the values. Okay, so I think I've shared this before, so apologies anybody who's heard this anecdote before, but years ago, I mean, I'm talking probably about after I'd qualified, so probably about 8 years ago, I went on a workshop, Find Your Values workshop, and I thought, this is time for me to reset my values. I was newly single, as you know. I was navigating a new career. I'd moved house. I didn't really know anybody, so I was having a very big life change, and I thought, now's the time to work out my values. So I went to this half-day workshop at a yoga studio. It was all really nice, and I felt really proud of myself when we went round in the sharing circle with our values. And of course, mine were all rather worthy. And then everybody else around the room had fun. And I actually looked at my long list, because we'd spent the whole morning. I didn't even have it on my long list. So it really troubled me. So I went away and I thought, why don't I think that fun is available to me? Why don't I think that fun is available to me? Because I always grew up with that phenomenal work ethic. I'm even blinking Saturday's Child. Saturday's Child works hard for a living.
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo. I prided myself that I could work harder and do more than anybody else. and I forgot to have fun. And I realized that I didn't think it was available to me. So I thought, right, I'm going to make it a value. I'm actually
What
going
an odd thing, what an odd thing to say though, Ros. You didn't think it was available to you.
that's
What an odd phrase to use.
well, that's exactly what happened.
Why didn't you think it was available to you?
Well, probably because I came from a family where hard work was the overriding value, where community service was a value, where providing for your family and building a business and, you know, all the rest of it were very high values. By being a good person was a value. But actually having fun, nobody ever sort of said, oh, you know, this is really, we did have fun, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't a value. And so, you know, people don't think that something like that is available to them. I mean, you know, you'll hear it. Money's a perfect one, you know. Our family's never been rich. We don't have money. Our family we can't hold on to money. Our family's jinxed when it comes to businesses. Nobody in our family's ever made money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money's the root of all evil. All of those things are telling you that money is not available to people like you. Okay, so they're the rules. Okay, they're the bullshit rules. We're there, but you're holding it as a value. I hope this isn't becoming too esoteric for people, but do you see what I'm saying? So you can actually go, I'd like that as a value. I'm going to blinking have that as a value. So I crossed one of my worthy ones off the list. You know, I've got enough worthy ones. I'm not having another one, and I just put fun. And I really went out of my way to have fun. And you know, and I did. I spent a little bit of my inheritance just going on holiday and doing fun things. And, you know, I joined the radio. I was on the radio show, and a lot of it was because it was fun. Yeah.
Okay, something to think about. I think I am a serious person. I am
too. I'm very serious.
I am a serious person, and you know, and I work hard. I've worked hard from the age of 17 to get where I am today, and I like work, and I'm happy working hard. But I think because of that, I have forgotten what fun is until Jessie was born, actually, until she was born, and now she's 4, and you know, and we get into all kinds of things. So she's certainly brought fun back into the family.
But you have to give yourself permission to have fun even when Jessie's not around.
Yes, I do.
I'm going to hold you, just so you know, I'm going to hold you accountable to that very, very soon.
Good. I'm looking forward to it. So, designing an ideal day sounds intriguing. How can individuals tailor their daily routines to align with their values and goals effectively?
Well, exactly what I've said before, really. You know, once you get those values, get those goals, and obviously in your daily routine, let's take fun, for example. You know, what am I going to do today that's fun? Now, some days aren't fun. Look, I get it. You know, you're working away from home, maybe you're traveling, it all goes horribly wrong. You know, the plane gets cancelled, your luggage gets lost. It ain't fun. I've been to Africa and India when these things have happened, and, you know, standing in an airport with no luggage, with no plane, and Anne Widdecombe not in a good mood was probably not the most fun minute I've ever had in my life, you know. But funnily enough, when we checked into the hotel and me and the photographer went down to the bar, we had quite a laugh. You know, so it's like where is the fun in this? Or okay, yesterday was a disaster, or this whole week was awful. You know, you've been bereaved. It's not going to be fun. It's something you have to get through. It's a difficult, awful time. You know, I've lost both my parents. You know, I know what bereavement feels like. It's awful psychologically, emotionally, and, you know, there's a lot of paperwork and horrible things you have to do if you're the grown up all of a sudden. That ain't a fun few weeks. I'm not saying that it is, but it's like, what can I do to if you can't have fun, what could I do to at least ground myself? I'm going to have a walk in nature. I'm going to do that thing I said, you know, take a moment to just literally stop and actually just watch a bird. And know, so it can't always be fun, 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 fun. But I think if you have that as a goal, at least you know, actually, for the next 3 weeks, that's not really going to be on the agenda. But I need some light in this darkness, in this dark time. I need some light. And if the best light I can have is a long hot bath, and I'm going to take a 5-mile walk in the countryside tomorrow with no distractions. I don't want to talk to anybody. And I'm going to eat a whole bag of wine gums. I don't care, you know, whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, get an ice cream, you know, be a kid again. And what you keep saying about Jessie, and what Jessie's brilliant in your life and a child in anybody's life is, they just have that, they know how to have fun.
They do. They know how to have fun, how to laugh.
We see a puddle and we go, "Ooh, I don't want to get my shoes wet." They jump right in the middle of it, okay? They just jump in the middle of it. They you know, we get an ice cream and we're like, "Oh, don't drip it." They're like,
they're like all over the face.
Like, you know, be more like a 5-year-old a bit more often.
Yeah, it's so true. So
yeah.
True. So cultivating abundance and gratitude seems essential. How can individuals shift their mindset from scarcity to abundance, and what benefits does that shift bring?
Well, as I say, the mind pretty much doesn't know the difference between what is imagined and what is real. So if you start to feel like you're abundant, you'll start to feel like you're abundant. And you will start to let it into your life. If you start to understand that abundance comes just like wealth, you know, those 5 F's are actually the definition of wealth. You know, wealth, I met, so let's use a couple of examples. So John Paul Getty, younger people might not remember John Paul Getty, but just imagine a really cranky billionaire, okay? A really unpleasant, cranky billionaire. John Paul Getty died one of the richest men in the world, but his family hated him.
He wasn't the one who lost his ear. Was that his grandson?
Yeah, I think that was his grandson. I'm not sure, but we can think of similar kinds of people, you know, the kind of archetypal Christmas Carol before he kind of had the revelation of all the ghosts, you know. So Scrooge. You know, John Paul Getty had finance. He was very rich, but he didn't have any friends or family. His family hated him. They were all suing him and trying to, you know, didn't have any friends. He had no faith. He was like, "Oh, I don't believe in anything," and that apart from money. Okay, interesting. He had no fitness, as in he really died in a very bad physical way, and his mental health was just shocking and absolutely terrible. And I don't think he had much fun. Okay, so this is not a wealthy man. He had one. Whereas, you know, you meet people, you know, charity workers and people who, okay, they maybe don't have loads and loads of money in the bank, you know, so by kind of financial standards, they're not rich or wealthy, but they have amazing friends, amazing family. The community love them. You know, they live to be like 90 or 100, and, you know, and they're still going strong, and they've got it all going on up here. You know, they have faith, you know, they've probably got a faith, a religious faith, or just faith in human nature and faith in everything. And they have a lot of fun, you know, along the way. So I would rather be that person, because that person in my book is a lot more wealthy than that other person. So just by understanding those values about what makes true wealth, by being grateful, by gratitude, by paying it forward if you're able to and you've got more than meets your needs, and by focusing on abundance. But what would abundance mean to you? For me at the moment, abundance to me would be more free time.
Yes.
Yeah, no, really, it's a simple
as well. Yes, more time.
It would be that would more free time to do what I want to do, to go to the beach, to have more time with friends, to spend more time with my dogs and my animals, to just walk barefoot on the lawn, to sit in the middle of the lawn and read a book at 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon. Time abundance for me, that really is, you know, your abundance might be different. You might really need more finance. You might really need, you know, more friends or connection. You might be very lonely. Abundance to you would be, you know, joining some clubs and getting out and making more connections. So Focus on the abundance you want. Make a vision board if you like. Focus on it. I've made an abundance board. Actually, I'm happy to share that with you as well, and you can share it in the group, because it's like a vision board, but it's like, what would bring me abundance? So there's very few what you would call material possessions on my abundance board, because I've actually already got them, really. I'm very fortunate. I have a lovely home and a nice car and, you know, all the rest of it. So for me, it's holidays, it's travel, it's time, it's beautiful food, it's lying on a lawn with a book, it's animals, you know, that's my abundance. So create an abundance board, and you will let it in, and the brain more and more won't know the difference between what is imagined and what is real, and it will make what is imagined real.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. So where are we? Seeking opportunities for growth is crucial. Can you share some strategies for identifying and seizing growth opportunities in both personal and professional realms?
I think we've kind of covered that in, you know, this work out your values, work out what you want to move towards. But I think the one element that I probably haven't mentioned is you do need to step out your comfort zone.
Yes.
You know that book years ago, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. You know, I think growth only comes when you actually stop being comfortable. When you're comfortable, you don't grow, you know, because you stay where you are. It's like, oh, it's all lovely. You know, in my book, I've got that parable, or the story of the whining dog. Have you ever heard that one? So there's a man, and he's walking by a porch in America, and there's a dog, and he's lying on the porch, and he's whining, whining, whining. And he walks by every day, and he can't understand this dog. He seems so unhappy. He's whining, whining, whining. And he walks by one day, and he takes a really good look, and he realizes that the dog is actually laid on a plank of wood where the nail is sticking up, and he's lying on the nail, and that's why he's whining. So the man knocks at the door, and he says to the owner of the house, I can't help it. Your dog is, you know, whining because he's lying on a nail. Why doesn't he move? And the owner goes, because it doesn't hurt enough yet. And I know, you know, but it's what happens. So we're either completely comfortable, or it doesn't hurt enough yet. And so we're afraid to make the move, afraid to make the change. But actually, you do only really grow by going outside your comfort zone and actually expanding yourself.
So can you give us an example then of you having gone out of your comfort zone and what that felt like?
I do it on a daily basis, Linda. I'm the queen of going outside my comfort zone. Well, yeah, I mean, I went to London when I was 18 to university. I was the first person in my family to even go to university. I went to London. You know, I'm from Nottingham. They're like, oh, London, you know. You know, I graduated, and I went briefly into retail management and hated it. And I knew I wanted to write or be, you know, in there. So I went for an interview for PR. I didn't even know what PR meant. I was like, well, I said, what do you have to do? They said, oh, write press releases and speak to people. I was like, I could do that. Every day on that job, because it was back in the day when you didn't actually have any real training, you know, so it would be like, go and launch this theatre production. There's a few famous people. Every day was outside my comfort zone, literally the whole of the 80s. And then at 29, I was made redundant. And instead of, you know, with my £5,000 redundancy payment, I created my own business. I set my own business up. So I'm the queen of going outside my comfort zone. I moved to a foreign country with kids. You know, it was like I was the alien. I was the outsider. It wasn't always easy, I'm going to be honest. And then I left that comfortable existence in a beautiful foreign country. As you know, I lived in the Bahamas, and came back to be a single unemployed mother because everything had imploded and I had cancer. And I was like, I need to be back in my homeland. I need to be back in England. And then I had to reinvent myself and get a job. I hadn't applied for a job at that point for about 15 years because I'd been my own boss. And I went back into employment. That was way out my comfort zone. Then I changed into charities. I'd never worked for a charity. Then I trained as a therapist.
I just think about, you know, when you worked for the leprosy mission as well, and some of the countries that you had to visit.
They were physically uncomfortable as well,
Yes,
you know, because, and also quite, I went to Ethiopia. It was very intimidating in Ethiopia. It was a kind of a bit of a police state, you know, there's like police checking your papers all the time. And it just felt very, you know, didn't feel. And I've been in very dangerous areas in the middle of nowhere where, you know, you're like a 5-hour journey on a dirt track road. And, you know, and there can be very untoward things happen, particularly to Westerners. You're often quite near war zones, and wherever there's abject poverty, there's often crime, of course, you know, and you're seen as the people that might be the ones that could be targeted. So yeah, it wasn't always very, and also physically not very comfortable, because we never stayed in like 5-star hotels, you know, we stayed in very basic accommodation. But I met people and I experienced things. I mean, I went to Myanmar, which is Burma, which now has got a civil war on, nobody's going to. I went to Ethiopia. I think they've pretty much got a civil war, nobody's going to. And I went to Niger, which is on the side of Nigeria. I went to Mozambique. They've got loads of issues there. All over India, and I feel privileged that I went to places that I'm not sure many Westerners are going to go anymore, not for a long time. And also I met the people at the ground level, and I stood and talked to them and ate with them and spent time with them, and that was a real privilege.
Right, thank you. So giving back and creating meaning appear to be significant components of mental wellness. What are some practical ways individuals can contribute to their communities and find fulfillment in doing so?
Well, I think there's so many ways, and it obviously depends on your community. I mean, I live in a village. My neighbour's on the parish council. Another neighbour organises the pick-up litter, you know, brigade. Another one does the, you know, make the village beautiful by planting bulbs. As you know, and I'm actually not going to go into it publicly, but I do some public service as well.
So that's not started yet.
Yes. I will tell you all about it. And so I think whatever your skills or interests are, there's probably always some way you can contribute, you know. To one of my friends is the lollipop lady. She's the lollipop lady. You do actually get paid for it. And, you know, so she goes out with her lollipop, you know, and make sure that the kids get across the street safely. If all you can do is just, you know, look out for your neighbour, you know.
Look out for your neighbour, or go and pick some litter up, or some flowers, like you say, or some bulbs, and just make your community look better.
It doesn't have to be rocket science-y, but if we all did that, wouldn't we live in lovely communities?
Or just go into the local cafe and, you know, buy a coffee and say, oh, and here's the price of another coffee.
Exactly. Buy local. Yeah. I go to the car boot and the farmers market every Saturday morning when it's on, because I buy from the local farmers. I buy all my fruit and vegetables from them. I don't go to
a farmers market.
I buy more locally.
When you talk about your perfect day or your ideal day, I mean, for me, one of my ideal days is to get up, go to the gym, go around the local market and buy fresh local produce, come home, do a bit of work, and then, you know, cook a meal or bake a cake.
You're talking about my Saturday. Pretty much every Saturday. So my Saturday is I get up, I do Pilates, which I do on Zoom, but I love the class and I love the instructress. I don't know. Is that a gender neutral word? Who knows? And then I go to the farmers market and car boot sale where I walk. I poodle around. I know loads of the store holders. We bought flowers, and I bought all my fruit and veg. My partner comes because he has a Boston sausage roll. And then he picks me up and he drives me home. We came home. I made a lemon tart to take to my new great nephew to see him on the Sunday. I went for a lovely walk with the dogs. I fed my animals. I gathered the eggs. I did a few other bits and bobs. I actually came over to my office to prepare for this, funnily enough, because I knew I was going to be busy Sunday, Monday. And then we went and watched a movie in the evening. I think it's a pretty perfect day.
Yes, and it didn't cost a lot of money, did it?
It was great. And I even went to see a movie to please my other half, and I enjoyed it, which was the Planet of the Apes one.
Oh, the new Planet of the Apes, yes. I'm looking forward to the new Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, that sounds good. That does sound good.
In French.
Oh, maybe we can find it together.
And it's not out until, I think it's the 24th of June, something like that.
Okay, maybe not, but yeah, that'll be good.
So, what is your getting over fear exercise, and how can viewers get hold of a free copy?
Okay, here's one I prepared earlier. Let me just get hold of it. So it's a 1 page, well, 2 pages, but I printed it out onto 1 page. And it's moving beyond the negativity bias of fear. And it's just a very simple exercise that when you're feeling fear, when you've got that kind of horrible loopy thoughts in your head, how to break the pattern, how to get out of those negative looping thoughts and get yourself into some much more positive ones. And it's based on neuroplasticity and how to rewire your brain, if you like. And it's just about sort of 5 or 6 simple steps and 4 simple questions. And you can print, I'll send it you, people can print it out. And whenever, you're starting to feel a bit overwhelmed or fearful, you can just go through that.
So you've not sent us that yet, Ros?
No, I don't think I think I did send it to you, Linda. I think I did.
I'll double check with Emma. I'll double check with Emma and Christine.
I did as an email attachment, but if not, I'll send it to you gladly. And I'll do that recording for everybody about being able to go through and visualize your perfect day. And I think people will also find that's a really positive antidote to any fear. And so I said right at the beginning that fear is false evidence appearing real. So what if changes to what is, and then you can rewrite your fear to mean face everything and rise.
That's wonderful. When the other day when I baked a cake in the afternoon, I was having one of those days where I felt rattled. Something had rattled me. I'm not going to say what it was, but something had rattled me, and I didn't feel. I felt out of sorts. I felt out of control. No, I felt out of sorts. I couldn't settle. So I thought, right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get all of my baking stuff out. And I got my mum's Biro baking.
Oh, we both got that. We both got our mum's Biro baking. Yeah, we both know.
And this is, it's nearly as old as I am. And I did the coffee and walnut cake recipe.
Lovely.
Mum's Biro recipe book, and I used my mum's 8-inch cake tins as well that are black with age, and I made the most beautiful coffee and walnut cake, and I felt much better after, because sometimes I think you just got to get out of your head.
I know. I love that.
Like this, like this.
And creativity actually is a really good way to get out of your head. Creativity, doing something creative. And obviously cooking is creative, sewing is creative, painting. I've started painting again, because I painted when I went through the cancer, and I found that a real outlet, and I didn't even know I could paint, and I ended up selling paintings in the Bahamas and being exhibited in a gallery. Here's me.
Anything that you can't do, woman.
Well, I'm not very good at the high job because I'm only 5'3". Anything, I can't reach the top cupboard of my kitchen. I have to have one of those little kick steps. But creativity is a really good, I'm glad you said that, Linda, because actually creativity is a really good way of getting out of a funk, because I felt a bit the same, and I'm getting more spiritual, as you know. I'm much more spiritual. I've been on a really big spiritual awakening and still am. And there's been a lot of solar flares, just so you know, without me starting to sound like Mystic Meg. But
no, but they have. I've been
yeah,
reading about them. Yeah.
solar flares, you know, all you know, when we had that aurora borealis, you know, going on. And
it was amazing, wasn't it?
yeah, all that kind of coincided with solar flares, and they made a lot of people feel very, my word was untethered. I felt very untethered. I just felt untethered. I didn't feel I could settle to anything. If I was in London, I wanted to be in the countryside. When I got back to the countryside, I wanted to be in London.
I was just the same, Ross. I felt just the same.
And
Totally discombobulated.
I had this conversation with so many people. In fact, I belong to a coaching group that I'm part of, and we had our meeting only at 1 o'clock, and one by one we were all saying, oh my God, I've been feeling just like this. So there is something astrological
happening with the planets.
Yeah, there's a planetary thing going on that's making us all feel like that. Then there's all the wars and all the terrible things and everything else. And so a lot of people are feeling very untethered, and I was feeling like I couldn't settle to anything. And I think creativity, like you say, doing something creative, cooking. I loved making the lemon tart on Saturday. It really helped me. Painting, I've been doing more painting. I love that program, The Great Pottery Throwdown. I don't know if you've ever discovered it. Absolutely love it. And the woman who won this year, she was so brilliant. But she said she took up pottery to help her mental health because she literally had a nervous breakdown. And so pottery, sewing, knitting, you know, all those things, they're really...
Well, you're focused on doing just one thing.
Yeah, that's also true. Very focused. I did, when I was at the height of my PR mad, you know, Wolf of Wall Street kind of life in the fast lane craziness, the two things that really worked for me were skiing, okay, because when you're skiing, you've got to really focus on what you're doing, otherwise you hurt yourself and it's quite dangerous. And so you've got to, and you're in the moment and you're in beautiful nature and it's all lovely.
It's wonderful skiing.
And fly fishing.
Really?
I went fly fishing, Linda. I went on 2 fly fishing trips, and I never was any particularly good at it, to be honest. But you've got to really focus, and you kind of have to do your fly and everything, and then you have to read the river, and you have to cast, and you have to and you stood up to here in, like, you know, galoshes and waders or whatever, and it was so good for my mental health. I think I literally went from the brink of a nervous breakdown to feeling really good in about 5 days because I went fly fishing.
So, you know, instead of doctors prescribing Prozac and all manner of antidepressants, they just need to give people a prescription to go fly fishing or...
Absolutely, nature, sunshine, good food,
yoga classes, cookery classes.
I mean, to be honest, a day, you know, my son and I, we love nothing better than our day at Mablethorpe. You know, I live by, you know, I live in Lincolnshire, and what's not to love? We do crazy golf, we do crazy golf, and then we go bowling, and then we do the shove 2 pennies in the amusement arcade, but I can't stand it in there for too long because it's so noisy. And then we go and have fish and chips, and we eat them sat on the seafront, and then we walk along the beach with our shoes off. Honestly,
it's a beautiful beach at Mablethorpe.
You can't beat it, honestly. It's like
one of D.H. Lawrence's favourite beaches.
Well, I've lived in the Bahamas on what was classified as the world's top 10 beach, and I still think Mablethorpe's up there. So I love it.
Okay then, Ross, so winding it up, how can our viewers, listeners find out more about you, and what are your social media handles? I mean, I know there's an awful lot of information and lots of free downloads on your website.
Tons of free stuff, worksheets, free recordings, all sorts. Sign up for my newsletter. It's never selly, you know, because you get it.
It's never selly. Your newsletters are wonderful.
It's not some sort of nasty magnet to get you to sign your life away in 5 easy steps. You know, it's me sharing, because I'm good at communication and I like to share. So you get something every few weeks as well that will be a bonus. So yeah, basically Rosalyn Palmer, ROSALYN Palmer, PALMER.com, or anywhere on social media. I'm Rosalyn Palmer. If you put Rosalyn Palmer in, you're going to find me. And yeah, probably signing up for my newsletter is the best way to stay up to date with everything. But yeah, there's loads of stuff on the website as well.
Right, thank you so much, Ros. And thank you everyone for listening, so watching and listening. So as I said, this video will remain on the Just for Tummies Facebook page and LinkedIn, and we will be sending it out in a newsletter too. So please do visit Rosa's website. As I said, there's lots and lots of great information on there and lots of free downloads. So that's it for now. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much.
Work with me, Linda. They, I do actually see clients. So
oh, I know, of course you do. Yes.
Yeah, I can actually book in.
Yes, of course you do. Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ros. And if you can just hang around, and we can have a little chat afterwards. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thanks,
Bye,
everybody. Bye.
Bye.